Tonight on 60 Minutes, we will be talking to a group of University of Maryland students who are applying for a $10 billion grant that they hope will help them with their development plan for Tanzania, Africa.
Thanks for having us. I'm Brandon Tillman.
I'm Nathaniel Scott.
And I'm Venki Sivasalam. And we're all students from the University of Maryland applying for the $10 million grant from the Organization for African Unity.
As you know, the majority of Africa is suffering from political, economic, and social strife. So my question is, why did you choose Tanzania?
Well, after a visit there through our university, we were really amazed by the natural beauty of Tanzania and just the kindness of the people. We really feel like it's a diamond in the rough in Africa, and with this grant, it really has potential to grow.
Why don't we start by hearing a brief summary of your plan? $10 billion is a great sum of money, and I think we would all benefit from hearing more about how you specifically plan to allocate that money.
Well, after our visit to Tanzania, we saw a lot of strengths and weaknesses, and what we want to do with the money is allocate partial sums of it both to Tanzania's strengths and what they've been doing well in the past, as well as what they need to improve on in the future.
Yeah, Tanzania does do a couple things very strongly. First off, we already talked about its natural beauty, which we feel like can make it a very hot tourist destination in the future. It also has a strong agriculture industry and also a mining industry that's greatly on the rise. And we feel like money in all those sectors, specifically mining, could really improve it technologically and also safety-wise for people within that field.
You mentioned tourism earlier and the importance of tourism on the economy. I've personally traveled to Tanzania and had the chance to visit a lot of those national parks, such as the Serengeti and the Ngorongoro Crater. Maybe you could tell our viewers more about the importance of these important landmarks to the economy.
Yeah. Not only do places like Mount Kilimanjaro and the Serengeti and other places you mentioned attract visitors to Tanzania, but also pumps an incredible source of revenue into the country, especially knowing that this country has had a lot of economic problems in the past. It accounts for about a quarter of the country's GDP, so clearly a pretty large amount. We feel like by further improving this, we can create more advertising and marketing so people can really know that Tanzania has these aspects of it.
Researchers have found that agriculture provides 85% of exports and employs about 80% of the workforce. Have you thought of a way to further increase spending on agriculture and strengthen the sector as a whole?
Yeah, agriculture is currently a very strong area, but we have plans to even increase that strength. We'd like to set up programs at both the micro and macro level. On the micro level, we'd like to set up education programs for farmers so they can most efficiently use the arable land that the country has. On a macro level, though, we'd like to create more government policies and protection for that land so that in the future it can continue to be used and provide for the farmers.
Clear understanding of how you plan to use the grant to strengthen the relatively developed sectors of Tanzania, such as mining, tourism, and agriculture. But what about all the problems we always hear about in terms of health, infrastructure, and education?
It's funny you should ask. We actually have a plan for that. Tanzania is built on its agriculture. In fact, it makes up a quarter of their GDP and about 80% of their exports. However, most of that revenue never gets back to the farmers and the rural areas, and there's a wide economic disparity. To fix this problem, we're going to focus on Tanzania's infrastructure. About 90% of roads in Tanzania are unpaved, and it makes it hard for farmers in rural areas to access cities such as Dar es Salaam, which are major trading ports. To help this, if we secure this grant, we can definitely decrease the amount of unpaved roads, and by doing this, we hope that we can make it more accessible for farmers to go to cities and expand their profits and revenue.
Do you plan to use any of this grant for education?
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head there. Education is also a very significant point we plan to focus on. Most children in Tanzania only receive schooling until about the age of 9, and roughly 30% of the population is still illiterate. However, what makes our plan very unique is we also plan on incorporating vocational schools to help farmers learn more techniques to become more able to produce higher revenue and produce more crops that are more accessible to those around the world. We feel that with this two-pronged education plan, we can both increase literacy and education in children as well as helping farmers become more advanced in their techniques.
So far, your plan primarily focuses on the economy. Have you thought about using the money for any social issues?
Absolutely. The women of Tanzania have a very unique role within the social and economic climates of the country. Economically, The women of Tanzania represent a large part of the rural economy and the production of food. They are most represented in this field of work because of the male dominance that exists within the society. Socially, women suffer from gender assumptions and violence against them. Gender assumptions continue a trend of female oppression, while violence against them has caused them to become victims of the epidemics such as HIV and AIDS.
So you touched on HIV and AIDS a little bit at the end there. Could you elaborate more on that?
When HIV and AIDS first touched the country of Tanzania, the epidemic spread with rapid speed. 6% of all adults in Tanzania became infected with the virus, while an astounding 56% of the infected population were women.
Thank you for sharing your development plan with us. I think all of our viewers would agree that you really thought about how you would use this grant to strengthen Tanzania. If it were up to me, I would choose you.
You're too kind. But we hope that our plan showed America that with a little help and hard work, we can change Tanzania for the better. And we hope that the Organization for African Unity sees it the same way.